he, as an institution, is the one to ideally be the proverbial either Moses or Joshua to take us into Canaan. And every promises he actually breaks ends up breaking up the psyche of the people. So I actually wouldn't even look at it that he's actually lying, but he's actually breaking very many promises. And he's actually losing any sort of moral authority to continue leading. And he needs to really go around and either try and see how many of these promises can still be executed, or basically just sit down and say, guys, we have a broken system.
But don't you think he's working based on experience, where he's seen people lie before and still get re-elected?
So I'm gonna start. I see Pablo is watching. Pablo, welcome. I'm back.
Okay. Hi, Pablo.
That he sounds nefarious.
He's not. So I'll start with Slay says, I know someone who supports the financial bill. Kaiser says, hello guy, I'm late as I'm at work. But then goes on to say, it's a great plan, just give it a chance.
I think he's talking about the housing plan. Afro-Jamaican likes it, that's Kaiser Soze. He likes it because there's a version of it that has worked in Jamaica. But I think Afro-Jamaican has not quite gotten to understand. He wants us to give it a chance.
That's fine. But you know what I would like if he can do? It's he or she.
It's a he.
It's a he, okay. If you can just literally give us a comment why you think it's a great plan, that would be great. Then like we'll be able to read it. Slay says, I saw somewhere NHIF does not have funds, so what happened to what the people are contributing? That's a good question, Slay. On the front that supports the bill, they said it needs a few amendments, but need not go into depth on what kind of amendments. What we do need to do, we did need to know the amendments. We do need to know. They also say that the view on the financial bill had been corrupted qua ground. Please note, these are not my views. We do know that. I try to summarize what I understood.
What was corrupted? If the friend could tell us, what was corrupted, maybe what people have not seen, that would be good.
Yeah, I would love to know. And we literally, let me also say, just because we might have different views does not mean that we're not welcoming to hear what other people do say. So please contribute.
And also for the person suggesting that it's corrupted, because this thing is definitely affecting watu kwa ground. So if the information that is fikiaing those guys on the ground is very incomplete, of course tutaanza ile
would love to know.
Tutaanza ile game your broken telephone, you whispering. So by the time ati umesema
na uliambiwa pale mwanzo she sells seashells at the seashore, then unaambiwa urepeat
ati guidhieka kunywa mai, unaweza kusema kitu different.
ama unaambiwa ni kitu kipi kikusitikishacho, and then you have to repeat and repeat and repeat.
Ama unafanya kama moja piki ponkia ngoa, something different.
Thieves are writing the bill. Wow, Greg. Love to hear more about that. They will force it down our throats. That's Emily. Emily also says the idea of taxation is good, but not in Kenya. What happened to all the money scandals from the past? Trust but verify. Let me tell you.
How do you verify?
Are you verifying? You're not given the details to verify whatever you're trusting. Pablo, please call in. That's Slay saying, that's not me. That's Slay. But I'm also adding to that.
Pablo, watu wamekumbis 20268345570 and *5. Pablo.
Stephen JJ says, my mom passed away in 2018. NSSF Nairobi sent us to Shago Siaya, and all siblings have to be present. This development pia imeleta shida mingi.
Now, that's
also
so sad.
On several levels. Number one, I'm sorry, Stephen, but the rest of what the government does, because it does not trust people, but also it is not to be trusted.
Now, you see, there's a high level of mistrust, and this is where I want Kaiser Soze to understand. And this mistrust comes from experience. It doesn't come from we're just not trusting. It comes from experience. And that's where that name, Mtukufu Lais, is coming. And especially, and we're not here, on the politics side of things. But I think, unfortunately, because we live in an era of social media where what people said before, these lies are just coming in, so fluently and so frequently that you wonder, like, I mean, hakuna mtu hata anamweka breaks, like, we cannot do that. You know, do not go in public and say this because it's not doable, it's not possible. It seems like it's a habit and it keeps coming back, and that's the reason why people are just not trusting, you know, like what he's saying in stories za jaba.
Kama mtungia gas.
Yes.
So maybe
I was in Kenya for that.
So maybe I have a different perspective that I always try to place up so that you can actually try and get to the people's cycle. You know, when you talk about someone saying a lie, it's easy to forgive a lie, but it's harder to forgive a broken promise. So he's been on a tirade of saying, I'll promise you a better future. I'll promise you I'm getting in there.
Tutatenga.
Tutafanya. Yeah. So he doesn't seem to realize that he, as an institution, is the one to ideally be the proverbial either Moses or Joshua to take us into Canaan. And every promises he actually breaks ends up breaking up the psyche of the people. So I actually wouldn't even look at it that he's actually lying, but he's actually breaking very many promises. And he's actually losing any sort of moral authority to continue leading. And he needs to really go around and either try and see how many of these promises can still be executed, or basically just sit down and say, guys, we have a broken system.
But don't you think he's working based on experience, where he's seen people lie before and still get reelected? So for him, you know, like, his priority, of course, is going to be getting reelected in 2027. And he just feels like he's lied before and he's not suffered any consequences for those lies.
I tend to be one of these positive people who always believes that people have a moral compass. And I would like to believe that one day he actually will sit down and look at the promises he's done. And even if he can execute 70 to 80% of them well and done. But my biggest disappointment as a Kenyan is that he keeps on making so many promises. He's on the cusp of, you know, doing his first 12 months in office within the next 2 months. I haven't been able to see any of the promises coming on through. I am only seeing a bigger and bigger burden coming on through. And to try and offset some of these expectations that, you know, people are quite, you know, very concerned, if not suspicious about with the finance bill, he needs to be able to up his game and deliver the promises. As a leader, whether we voted for him, whether we didn't vote for him, whether we voted for the other girl, Tingiza Mti, whether we're sleeping during the election day, he remains a president for all Kenyans, in and out of the country. Yeah. And he needs to realize that every time he sleeps, he's carrying the entire burden of the promises of the people and should actually be able to deliver them.
Wow, Mika, I think Mika wanted to add something onto this. Mika?
Yeah, I totally understand what Hila is saying, and I agree with most of it. But then the thing is, Hila, I think the reason why people are looking at the broken promises as lies is because he has a second arm of his institution, and that second arm usually comes and contradicts everything he says. And then the excuses that second arm gives usually don't even make sense, to a point whereby even if we're saying, okay, fine, you broke my promise and you come and give us this excuse, your second in command comes and gives us another excuse that just doesn't make sense. Who are we supposed to believe, and how are we supposed to even now look at you and see that you have the capacity of delivering this promise that you haven't kept? Because you will say, okay, we are still trying to work on it, we are trying to get to the better of things. Your second in command comes and said, wale walikula pesa yote wamemaliza, hakuna kitu sijiri, and then they say something stupid and doesn't even give room for discussion or anything. So I don't know why they do what they're doing, because I don't believe it's just chance that they keep crossing on each other. But it's quite hard to understand how they're running this government. It's more of like we have a jester, and then we have a king who tries to limit that jester, but then again he himself becomes a jester at some time. So the confusion that comes out from the two of them just makes people lose that faith or that hope. And I've just said to say, let's go with the jokes. We're being lied to. Even if he did go and provide that 70 to 80% of his promises, after all the topsy-turvy that the country has gone to, he's not helping himself.